This is the Mormon Mixed Faith Marriage Podcast with certified life coach Brooke Booth, episode number 111. Okay, this isn't going to be a very long podcast, but this is an important topic we're talking about. We're going to talk about the difference between impact and intention. Intention and impact. So I believe this is going to come out in the middle of the holiday season. This is timely. This applies a lot of times to gift giving and how it's the thought that counts is really what we're talking about is the difference between intention and impact. I see these things showing up all the time in the language we use in our mixed faith marriages. So we're going to talk about intention and impact with specific language examples. Let me talk generally about intention and impact first. One is this. I think most people, you, me, most people I know, most of my clients, we actually have really good intentions when it comes to our marriage, when it comes to our spouse. We're not deliberately trying to hurt them, undermine them, ridicule them, control, manipulate them. That's not our intention. Our intention is often coming from a really good place. You probably are a good person. You probably love your spouse. You probably think your spouse is a good person. You probably want them to be happy. You probably want what's best for them. I don't think intention is often in a bad place, but that doesn't mean impact isn't. Intention and impact do not correlate. Your intention may be amazing. It may be stellar. It may be generous. It may be good. It may be loving, but that does not mean the impact still isn't hurtful or painful. Impact and intention both need to be looked at. A lot of times people are like, well, because my intention's good, I don't need to take responsibility for the impact. And that's what I want to question in this podcast today. That's what I want to talk about as we discuss intention and impact. Good intention does not compensate for bad impact. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Good intention does not compensate for bad impact. Good intention does not erase the need for an apology when there's a poor impact. Good intention does not nullify the impact and its consequences to your relationship. Just being the good guy is not enough. I know you all have good intentions. I have good intention. That doesn't mean the impact gets a pass. So to talk about impact versus intention, I want to look really close at some language we use, because I think a lot of times the language we use in our mixed faith marriage, the intention is good. We're not trying to hurt anybody. We're not trying to undermine anybody, but it can have a really hurtful impact. Now, the examples I'm going to give, I want to be really careful and say not everything we say in our marriage is going to have a negative impact on our spouse. I just want to be aware of the impact it might be having on the spouse, and not just because we have good intentions. I don't want to turn a blind eye to the impact. I think we need to be looking very closely at our intentions and what's behind them, and also the impact that our actions, our behaviors, and our words are having on our spouse and on our marriage. Just again, I'm going to say it again, just because your intention's good doesn't mean the impact is good. And also, just because you have the impact is a bad impact or hurtful or harmful, doesn't mean you're a bad person. Okay. Does not mean you're a bad person. All I'm saying is let's just look at our intention and let's look at the effect of our impact, and let's take accountability and responsibility for both. Okay, here's some examples to really hopefully solidify and ground this idea. Now, this is some examples of words that I've used in mixed faith marriage. I've probably used every single one of them. And I want to look at the words here, and some are going to be obvious. You're going to be like, of course, that's going to have a bad impact. Some are going to be less less obvious, so just go with me on this, but I do think we use these all often with good intentions. Okay, one thing I've heard a lot is like mental gymnastics. This is the first example we're going to talk about. This has been used, I've heard it used in the context by both the believing spouse and the spouse who's had a faith transition. And it can sound very benign. I think a lot of times it comes from a place of good intention, but there can be an impact there. When I talk about impact, a lot of times it's like the implied meaning. What's the meaning that can be easily implied by using a term like mental gymnastics? It implies that your logic is weak or isn't sound, or that you're really like having to like spin this in a way to make it work that's a little absurd. This is some of the implied meaning when we say, they're using mental gymnastics. And again, I hear this on both sides of the street, whether it's the believing spouse saying that their person going through the faith transition is demonstrating or using mental gymnastics, or whether it's the person going through the faith transition using this label on the believing spouse. I think it's worth looking at more closely. Again, I think the intentions are good. But what's the impact? What's the impact? Okay, this next one's much less obvious. This is something I heard a client say recently. And he said, I want her to feel good. Now, I would say his intentions, stellar, very good intentions. Of course, you want your spouse to feel good. Of course, that's what you want. I think that comes from a place of really good intention. But the impact is worth looking at. The impact of I want her to feel good can be different. And I'm not saying this is universal, that the impact is always going to be negative. But the implication here is how she feels right now is wrong or bad, or I'm judging for how she's choosing to feel right now. She should choose a different way. There's inherent judgment in that how she's responding to this isn't the choice she should be making. That's the impact I'm talking about here. Yes, your intention is good, but what's the impact? Here's a more obvious example when we use a term like apostate or cult. So apostate, again, it's a word we use pretty regularly. It's just in the LDS vernacular. I get it. But the impact can be an impact of othering, creating an outsider. You've been kicked out. You've lost status. You're not as important. They can have real impact. Same with the word cult. I know a lot of times people use it like, I'm just using it in the academic sense. I've even said this myself. But that doesn't negate the impact it can have on the person we love most, on our spouse. There's the implied meaning that you're brainwashed, that you're under somebody's control, that you're stupid, that you're naive, that you are powerless. Again, I realize the intention may be good, but I'm also wanting us to look at impact. I'm just going to keep saying that. Here's another example. Thank goodness you're not like sister so-and-so, or thank goodness you're not like brother so-and-so, or thank goodness you're not like those other ex-Mormons, or thank goodness you're not like those other believing members. This one's interesting to me because it sounds like a compliment. They're like, thank you for not being like that. Like, it sounds like a compliment. But again, what's the implied meaning? A lot of times the impact is parsed out through the implied meaning. The implied meaning, it can be a little bit of a threat. Like, if you do that, like brother so-and-so or sister so-and-so, I'm not going to like you. If you act like sister so-and-so, I'm going to have a problem with that. And I might be a little passive aggressive with you. A lot of times that's the impact. And it's tricky because I know the intention is good behind that. You might even be intending to give them a compliment or to express gratitude, but the implication, the impact can be quite different. This is what I like to do, is I like to just bring these examples to just expand your awareness. We're going to assume your intention is already probably in a really good place. And I just want you to look a little bit more closely at the impact of the language that you're using in your mixed faith marriage. Like, is it also as harm-free as you can make it? This can be really hard work to do. And you are not going to be successful 100% of the time at all. You are going to say things that come from a really good intention and that have a really hurtful impact. You are going to do this, and you are probably going to do it a lot. I've certainly done it a lot, and that's okay. This is where we can come in and really use repair and repair techniques. They're absolutely vital because you're not going to be perfect. So learn to repair and learn to repair well. Own your mess ups. Own the impact that your words and behavior have on your spouse that time, even if your intentions are really, really good. And then repair, repair, repair. Own own your responsibility and accountability for your intention. Oftentimes that's the easy part. And then also own your accountability and responsibility for the impact that your words and behaviors have on your spouse. And that's where I want you to repair and repair and repair and repair. And the reason I say this is because this is one of the most beautiful things we can do in a relationship to bridge a gap, to bring connection back, is by offering an apology. Because what it does is it acknowledges what I said, had an impact on you. And that now you're experiencing pain and you're hurting because of that. I see that, and I acknowledge that, and I take responsibility for that, and I'm sorry for that. Those types of repairs can be so powerful in our relationship to bring connection, to deepen our humanity, to deepen that tenderness. Nobody wants a perfect spouse. That's not going to happen. That's not what we expect. But when we don't then turn around and offer these repairs, it can really take a toll on connection and on feeling safe, and on, like, when our impact is ignored and not seen as something to take responsibility for, can really cause some continued hurt and pain in a relationship. So this is the challenge I want you to do this week, is I want you to see the impact that you're creating in this relationship. And I want you to do as many repairs as makes sense to you, as you can do there, as many apologies, as many, I see this hurt you. It wasn't my intention, but I'm still so deeply sorry. And whether my intention is good or not, it still hurt you. And I am sorry. A lot of times what we do is we stop a little prematurely and we just say, well, I didn't intend to hurt you. My friends, I know it's true, but it is not an apology, and it's no way recognizing what our spouse is actually experiencing and what the real impact that has on our spouse and therefore on our relationship. I'd love you to take it to the next step, and you can say that wasn't my intention. That's fine. Say it, because it's probably true. And then can you also add, and I'm sorry that the impact was so painful to you. I did that. I take responsibility for that. And I am sorry. Learn to repair and learn to repair well. Own your mess ups, own the impact, even though your intentions are good, and repair, repair, repair. If you need help with this, please reach out to brookeboothcoaching.com. Go to my website and let's talk. Maybe my course is the perfect fit for you to get these tools. Maybe you need more intensive one-on-one coaching. Whatever works for you, let's get started. so that you can have a strong and thriving mixed faith marriage. You deserve it. It's time to have that connection as strong and robust as it can be. All right. Wishing you the very best.